Do you want to know how to teach a child to read for free? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, education, all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. In this video, I'm going to be talking about teaching your child to read. I have taught multiple children to read. I actually homeschooled some of my children, and some of them went to the public school. But either way, usually you're involved in the reading process. And with the homeschooling process, I did all of the reading teaching myself. And what I found is that sometimes at the school, they're making it more complicated than it needs to be. In fact, I would say especially in modern times, they're making it more complicated than it needs to be. Everyone's focusing on memorization and sight words and those types of things, when in reality, there are some pretty easy rules that you can use to learn why a word is always going to say a certain thing. In this video, we're going to talk about reading and how simple it can be, and some key things that you can do and resources that you can look into to help you learn to read for free. Years ago, when I decided to homeschool my children, I found myself at a conference at a university, and there was a woman talking there. Her name was Lynne Hanson. She did a class called "I Can Teach a Child to Read in 40 Minutes, and So Can You." I was very intrigued by the title of this class. I thought, 40 minutes? Interesting. So the class was 40 minutes long, and she took a non-reading child up in front of the class and taught him how to read in front of everyone. Then she did another 40-minute class right after and explained what she had done to teach him to read. I was blown away. I had a child at home who was definitely ready to learn to read, but I did not know how to begin. And suddenly I thought, I can do that. That's simple. That does not take that much practice. Well, I was wrong about the practice. It takes a little bit of practice, but it really did not cost me anything to learn her songs and her way of teaching the children to read. Now, Lynne Hanson no longer teaches reading to children. I wish she did, but you know, some people, they get older and they've got to retire from things. So actually, there is someone who's taken over her business of teaching people to read, and it's called Rocket Learning. So Rocket Learning is just building up, getting ready to teach Lynne Hanson's method out there. So definitely look up Rocket Learning if you want to learn more about what I'm going to be talking about today. But I can help you with a few basics that can get your child reading for free now. So first off, when we teach our children to read their letters, we teach them the alphabet song, right? The song that goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. You know the song, right? So we teach them that song because that helps them remember all of the letters. Well, one thing that I did after that was I taught them that every time you touch a letter, then that letter has to make a sound when you touch it with your finger. So this was something that Lynne taught me to do. So I would teach the child, when they touch the word, or when they touch the letter B, it says B. So they would go up to signs and posters on the wall, and they would touch B and they would go B. It says its own sound, right? It says its sound. So, and there were certain letters that would say a couple of sounds. So then you would say A says A and A, or O says O and Ah. I says I and I. So if you touched it, you would say A says A and A. But there were other letters, like T would just say T, and H would say H, and P would say P. And so anytime you touched them. Now, obviously, you have to learn the direction that the letters are always supposed to go. Lynne had this cute little truck. She would put it at the beginning of every line that you were going to look at letters so that you always remembered which way your truck was driving. And she had these great little images for how to remember what the letter was. So you drive your truck, and let's say you get to a P. A P was a pull, pop, pull, pop. And so you would remember that. And you would get to a C, and it was a cave, right? A little cave letter, but you had to go around the other side of the cave. You had to, because your truck was on the back of the cave, right? Or if it was a B, it was the back of a bear, and you know, back bump of the bear. And so you would drive that little truck and get there. So anyway, I taught my children, okay, here's Here's how we know what letter we're hitting. When we touch the letter, here is what it says when you touch it. So then we would go around and in books we would touch letters, and I would read books to my children, and anytime I would get to a letter that we were working on for that week, because we would usually do one letter a week, say we were doing M. So if you give a mouse a cookie, we would read that book, and every time we got to the word mouse or any other word like me or something in the book, I would stop and I would point to it, and my child would say and I would say mouse, and then me. And so they would get to say the sound that I was pointing to because that was our target letter for the week. So that means you have to teach them the lowercase letters, right? Not just the uppercase letters. So it is important that you make sure they learn both of those. Well, so then what happened was we taught them what a consonant was and what a vowel was. And Lynne was able to do this very quickly. She just created a chart that had only consonants on it, no vowels. So it started with B, and it ended with Z. And she would say, okay, here is a chart with our letters. Let's sing our ABC song, and that will be very fun. So we would start, oh, wait a minute, there's no A. Okay, this chart must be naughty. We'll put an A over here on this other piece of paper. Okay, let's just start with B. B, C, D. There's no E. Okay, if any letters we find that are not on this chart, we will put them on this chart over here. And so we would write them all on the other chart. And then we would sing through the whole song, missing all of the vowels. And then she would say, this word up here says consonant chart. So this must be a consonant chart. These are all the consonants. So what are these over here that aren't on this chart? These are vowels. Oh, well, let's say them. Let's touch them and say them. A says A and A. E says E and E. O says O and A. I says I and I. U says U and right? So, see, those are all the same kinds of letters. When you touch them, they all say two things. And so there are vowels. That's a vowel chart now that we just made. This is a consonant chart. And then she had songs to help you know what your vowel was going to say in the word. Now, I have other videos on this channel where I've taught about reading, so definitely compare this video to some of those videos so that you can get a little bit more help with that. But I'm going to teach you a couple of different quick songs that Lynne Hanson taught me. Now, in no way is this her whole method. In fact, I definitely recommend going to Rocket Learning to have help with consonant blends, married letters, those types of things. But this is the basics for how to teach a person to read, and it's really quite fast. What Lynne did was she said we learn the long vowel sounds first, and that is because we need to remember the rule about a vowel after. So she said that you would determine what a vowel was going to say by syllable in a word. So if you have a word like name, that's one syllable, it's one clap. Name, okay? Or if you have a word like cape, that's one clap. But let's say you have a word like bottle, that's two claps. So the O in bottle says ah because of how it relates to the other vowels in that syllable. Well, there's only one vowel in that syllable, okay? And that's why it says O. So you would determine what the vowel was going to say based upon the syllables in the word. So we would start with one syllable words, but long vowel sounds. Words like fire and words like hike and bike and cake and name, those types of things. Lots of them are words that have E's at the end of them. Or a word like coat, boat, float, oat, right? Those are those OA. Normally we're just memorizing that, but you don't have to if you understand what Lynne knows. What we did was we said, okay, let's find the consonants in this word, okay? Let's find the vowels in this word. So if we have the word name, then we say, oh, here's A. That's a vowel, so we underline it. Then look, here's this E. That's a vowel, and so we underline that. So then we say, okay, so that E must be a vowel after, because we know this is a one-syllable word. So A with a vowel after says A. Oh, that's great. So what does the vowel after say? Nothing. The vowel after never says anything. So we put a little cross out line through the vowel after. It says nothing. It's only there to let us know that A says A. Then they touch the letters. A, and then nothing. A, Name. That says name. Now you can do the same thing with hike. There's H-I-K-E. I. Oh, we're going to underline that. That's a vowel. E, that's a vowel. We'll underline it. Now, what is the I going to say in this word? Well, it's one syllable because we're only doing one syllable words right now. So I with a vowel after says I. So if it's a vowel after, we cross the vowel after, we know that one says I. So it's hike, hike. So just knowing that simple song helps us know what it says. There's another song that helps you know what a word says if it doesn't have a vowel after. This is the without song. That's what Lynne called it. So A without, meaning no other vowel after, says apple. This is how the song goes. A without says apple. E without says elephant. I without says igloo. O without says octopus. U without says umbrella. That's how the song goes. So if you have a word like cup, then it might say C-U-P. You would say, let's find the vowels. Okay, U is a vowel. Are there any other vowels? No. I guess this U is without. It's all by itself. So let's see what it says. U without says umbrella. Okay. Up, cup. That's what it says. Now, after you go through this process, you're going to need to learn blended consonants, you're going to need to learn married letters, and what to do with all the crazy words like laugh and go. Why are those so different? And how can we say the? Well, Lynne Hanson helps with all of those things, and so you can go to Rocket Learning and learn her program. But this will get you started. Now, with these simple rules, what you can do is you can make word lists and just start reading word lists. Then you can find books like the Bob books and those types of things, and you can find the words in those books that the children can read. Now, Lynne Hanson did create special books that would match all of those words. So you can find those books as well at the Rocket Learning. But I also just made some myself. In fact, I felt like that making books that the children would care about, maybe even stories about their life, would be a lot of fun. So if you're creative, make your own word lists, make your own books, but the most important thing is practice every single day. So this is the Teaching Self-Government channel, and when you learn any new skill, it requires practice, whether it's learning how to read or whether it's learning how to disagree appropriately with other people, accept no answers, or learning how to self-regulate. If you want to learn more about the skills and principles of self-government that could help you as you are trying to instruct your child to have reading practice time, then you'll probably want to learn all about following instructions. So there is a video on this channel all about following instructions, which I think will be a great place for you to start next.